are now listening to the Baseball Aficionado. Once again, back at you, your host Santos, the Baseball Aficionado. Happy to be back with you guys. And today I got a really special guest. But before I do that, please make sure if you are watching on YouTube, please hit a like, comment, subscribe, the whole thing. Not only does it help us, but it helps us grow, but it actually helps to keep the interaction going, which is always first and foremost, because we like to keep that engagement going with everybody and continue to build like that. But what I want to say is I have a special guest. But before you do that, of course, make sure to visit the website BBA Aficionado. We have the merch. The merch is really like, it's a thing that we introduced this year, a little earlier this year, and it's really, we got some nice pieces inspired by Latino baseball and the sorts. So make sure you check it out. bbaficionado.com. You get 10% off when you subscribe to the mailing list. And without further ado, I want to welcome to the show. First time he's been on here. This gentleman is a master of all trades, literally. This guy was a comedian or is a comedian, DJ, covers baseball, diehard Mets fan like me, but he also likes another team too. We'll talk about that. But without further ado, I want to welcome to the program Flobo Boyce.
Yo, what's going on, man? I love the intro. I appreciate the energy, man. That's what's up.
Now, listen, you got it. You got to set it off right. So
Yeah,
it's the way I always
exactly.
do it. You got to set it off right. It's important. So for me, it's everything. So first of all, I want to thank you for joining me because, I'm a big fan of your work, and we'll get into what you do, and we'll chop it up on that. But just needed to make sure that I let you know. I know I've told you this before and offline and all that, but big fan of your work. So
No, same here. In fact, actually, when you gave me the intro, I was like, oh, man, I got to follow the YouTube channel. So I did that right now in real time. I'm part of the crew on the Aficionado
no, no,
YouTube
no.
page.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. So let's get right into it, right? So, um, I was familiar with your work, basically by the Black Baseball mixtape. That was the first
Yeah.
time and shout out to Cheats and the crew. So I guess we'll start with that right off the gate. How did you get involved with the Black Baseball mixtape?
Oh man, that's a long question. So if I'm going off, just stop me, right? But a
Right.
couple years ago, I have my own podcast. I talk to like entrepreneurs and creatives. It's called New Amsterdam Radio, KNEW. And I had a guest who was Ernest Horton, Black Baseball Media, which is a different outfit altogether. And I had him on the show just to ask him questions about baseball. And at the end of it, he was like, "Yo, man, have you heard of Cheats?" And I was like, "Is that a dating app?" He goes, "No, no, no, no. Cheats is doing it too over there on the Black Baseball mixtape." So I went over to Cheats' Instagram. I thought it was cool. I had just got let go from Spotify. I used to do a wrestling podcast for them. So I'm sitting there going to Cheats like, "Yo, I love ball. You love ball. I podcast. You podcast. Can we collab, and so you can come on my podcast?" This is very similar to what happened with us. And so I guess something got crossed in the wires, and it sounded like I was asking for a job. And he gave it to me. And so just to be able to be that man on the street, Black Baseball Mixtape is very important as far as getting the word out there about Black culture. But what I bring to the brand is giving some levity, some jokes, some comedy, some good times. So it's a nice little balance in there.
Yeah, and that's the interesting dynamic too, because I noticed that was one of the first things I picked up on is Cheats is very much the meat and potatoes
Mm-hmm.
kind of guy, right? He's more of he's the nitty gritty type of guy. He's that sort of baseball guy. He's a total baseball guy. And you, like you mentioned, you brought that other element to it. You're more relaxed in style, from what I noticed as well, more laid back, and you add a little more of that comedic flair. So it's very noticeable, but you bring something very distinct to the team. So I
No,
think it's I could speak for the other people who follow it and who are down with it. It's refreshing.
No, I appreciate that. And that's kind of what the vibe was. I mean, the issues that Cheats talks about are very, very important. And you can go into detail if you want to. But growing up, before baseball stopped being cool for a minute, I was a barbershop. I was a cookout. I was like, nah, you said he was doing? No, I don't believe in this team. I believe in that team. And I want to bring some of that back.
Yeah, definitely. And you did. I mean, just because you touched on it, I think it's very important. Obviously, the baseball aficionado, we touch a lot of Latino baseball topics and discussions and comparisons and all kinds of things, right? But
Mm-hmm.
what the Black Baseball mixtape brings is something that's what it's what we say in Spanish, unique in its class. We say in Spanish, único en su clase. Like
Hmm.
the only thing that is like it, and I feel like it is so important because, like you mentioned, when we were growing up, which we're around the same age, because I did research, so we're the same, you got me by a year, but we're
Yeah.
the same age. We grew up in the same era, right? And pretty much the same neighborhoods. And so when we were growing up, kids were not only playing baseball, but I remember black kids were into baseball too.
Yeah.
They were, and it's kind of become a generation that you don't see it as much anymore. What do you attribute
Right.
that to?
So I've been trying to work on this theory for about a year or two. I'm gonna share it with you and your audience. You let me know what's going on. So you're right. When I was a kid, I grew up with Frank Thomas, or the white with the Chicago White Sox, and there was other guys as well who just made it happen. They had the swag or whatever. But in the mid '90s, there was two things that really hurt baseball. And that was the player strike, and then there was also the steroid era. And so
Right,
when that happened, I felt like Major League Baseball said, "Look, we're not here to like put stars on pedestals. We're gonna go back. We're gonna go be clean cut. We're gonna just go on the game. We're not going to worry about Sosa,
right,
McGuire. It's going to go on the game." And this is like the mid to late '90s, which is cool for baseball. But at the same time, we had Space Jam, the N1 mixtape tour. You had Madden. You know what I mean? Like the culture was shifting. So young black kids was like, "Why am I going to put my head down and be buttoned up if I can be like Skip to my Lou with the rucker of the cage and cross somebody up and get a
right.
chance to go on tour?" And I think a lot of kids our age went to ball, basketball and football. You know.
Yeah. No, no, definitely, no doubt. And I think that is a product of it, right? There's a byproduct of what we've seen. And I think also that's part of it. Don't get me wrong. But again, like I told you, right? When we looking at it from the Latino baseball prism as well. And I believe this, and you can chime in and let me know if you agree or disagree. I feel like Major League Baseball has turned away from cultivating a lot of that talent from the inner city, and in particular, Black American baseball players, where a lot of that has been replaced by Latin American investments, which it's no fault of theirs, right? There's a lot of opportunity and they seize the opportunity. But I feel like Major League Baseball has shifted away from that and have turned their efforts to Dominican Republic, to Venezuela, during in a brief time, obviously before Cuba for in little spurts, but I'm not saying Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico was thriving when That's the interesting thing, and I bring this up to Cheats. Puerto Rico was thriving when black baseball was thriving,
Mm-hmm.
which is ironic because Puerto Ricans are American citizens. So I
Right.
find that very. It isn't that it. That's not a coincidence.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, you have to go back to the days of the Negro Leagues when seasons were over. There were these barnstorming groups that would go to Puerto Rico all the time because it was that blend of U.S. territory with it being a quote unquote exotic location. They kept that culture. Puerto Rican baseball is as lively as the Negro Leagues were as well. And that's
Right.
also not a coincidence. But you're absolutely right. I mean, all 30 major league teams have full on academies in República Dominicana. Like, I'm not even like stressing. Even the Marlins have like a brand new complex out there, and there really was a pullback from the inner city for black kids.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, and I think also like we've mentioned, or like it's been like what has been said, just the lack of representation, right? When you don't, after a while, you stop seeing yourself, the motivation, the initiative, the initiative, the incentive of getting out there, busting your butt to play. Besides the other factors like economic factors, where a lot of families can't, there's so equipment, you got travel to, you got a lot of stuff, so those things have kind of dissuade some of the youth in the inner
Yeah.
city to go out there and pursue that dream.
Well, on the in the booth podcast, not to put the plug in there, right?
No, no,
We talk.
plug it, plug it.
We
You
all right
you're
in
here,
the booth of
you're here
Flobo
for that.
Boyce, part of the Black Baseball Mixtape
Right,
Network. We asked people about that question because a lot of parents say that, hey, look, to play baseball, you require a lot of equipment. Travel ball is expensive. I'm not taking that away. I'm not saying afford it, right? But at the same time, there are affluent black families that exist. And the ones that
absolutely.
have the money who happen to be black weren't playing baseball either. So it had to be something beyond the cost of entry. It wasn't like, oh, shucks, ma, I want to do. When I was a kid in the 90s, Power Rangers was the biggest thing on the block. And these Taekwondo dojos pop up out of nowhere. And we found a way to go, right? So, like, there
In the
has to be a
hood,
cool
in the
factor. Yeah,
hood,
in the hood, right?
and
Right
all
next,
the time.
right next to the
I'm
laundromat.
telling you, we saw him in East New York. Listen, we saw him in East New York. We saw him in
Yeah.
Bushwick. Yeah, that's a fact. Yep.
Yeah, so I feel like at the same time there has to be a demand. Where did the demand go to? Yes, it costs a lot of money for sure, but where was the demand for kids of a certain age to say I want to play?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's 100. You're spot on with that. And another thing too, going along with those financial implications, right, or those commitments. I mean, we didn't grow up with money either. And I'm not saying the price, with inflation and all that, it's comparable. It's not the same, but
Hmm.
it cost a lot back then too. And we found a way to make the sacrifices too. I didn't grow up, in a well-to-do family. We were blue collar or whatever, but and so
Yeah,
the sacrifices will be made. How many times do you see families from where who come from the neighborhoods where we grow up in make the sacrifices, just because you have it doesn't mean you can afford it.
right.
That's but you do, but you get it, you do it. So
Yeah, you do it. If that's like the dream the kid wants to do, and there was a supportive environment, you try to make that work. But kids just want to do that. But you're right. People talk about the price of games now. It's always, oh man, it's so expensive. Would you buy some food and park the car? It costs money. And like, yes, it's inflation for sure. But like, if you were a diehard fan, you kind of think of it as a priority to make that happen first. Now, I'm not saying luxury boxes, but for example, the New York Mets have $2 days. They have $5 tickets online right now.
that's
Even
right.
before you leave, you can really enjoy yourself at $10. Like what are we talking about
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, 100%. And obviously, that leads me to my next segue, which is your New York Mets fandom.
here? Hmm.
And of course, I'm gonna touch base with you on your other favorite team, which we've talked about before. But
You got
right,
so mad. You're like,
so
how
well,
dare you?
no, no. Well, listen, it's a little bit of a foreign concept to me, but I understand it. I'm not all on board with it, but I get it.
Yeah,
So
I got you.
all right. So explain the paradox first. Let's talk about your Met fandom,
Oh
and
yeah, it's
then
not a paradox
and
though. Stop. Okay, so I would say 90% of fandom is New York, right? My dad grew up in the islands. The West Indies, a cricket country from Barbados. When he came to the United States in the 70s, he put both TV channels on of different games of different teams just to see what Americans do in place of cricket. So I grew up with baseball in the house. I picked the Mets early because there was a lot more people that looked like me. I would say Bernard
right.
Gilkey, Butch Husky. I was a fat kid, so Benny Agbayani was my dude because he was just a bunch of cheeks and legs, man, like
Oh,
walking around. No, pause. So
he
I
was the
give him all.
best.
Yeah, he was good, man. I love Benny, dude.
he
Uh,
was. He was the best.
so to this day, and I've traveled the world. I've traveled to 11 countries. I live in Los Angeles now. When you see somebody with a Mets cap, they have some connection to my hometown. It isn't like, well, I bought this hat because it looked cool. It's like, nah, my grandma took me. Or I was stuck in LA.
Yankees,
Yeah,
Yankees.
exactly. So it's like a hometown team. But however,
Right,
when I was a kid, before the age of what 11, there was split leagues. Interleague play was two different leagues. AL never touched NL. NL never touched AL. And even though I love the Mets as a team, Frank Thomas was a superstar. They called him the Big Hurt. The dude smiled, hit home runs. He smacked around the Yankees. I had all the love in the world because at the same time, if you beat the Yankees, I'm on board with that too. So like today, I would say I'm a Mets fan through and through, right? I watch like
right,
one White Sox game a
right.
season, but I do have a brick at the White Sox stadium just because when I was a kid, Frank Thomas was a positive black role model for me. That's why I like the Sox too.
I no, I okay, no, and that's understand like that way. The way you explain it to me, that's understandable. So it's almost like you're more of a Mets fan, but you
Absolutely.
have like a. But okay, all right. It's not. So it's not like an equal.
No, 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 no.
Uh, all right, all right, all right. I could understand it. And up to be fair, now we grew up in the same era, right? When those White Sox uniforms came out, these kids will never understand,
Yeah.
right? You can back me on this. When those new back then, it was a new thing. Black and White Sox uniforms with that old English Sox logo, bro. I had the jersey.
Yeah. And it
I
was
had
cool.
the, and I wasn't a Sox fan.
They were the only team in all of baseball that didn't have their city or state and their cap insignia. It just
Yes,
sucks. Like, where is it? Doesn't matter.
yeah,
Sucks.
yeah. It looked so gangster. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like they looked badass on the field with the black and white and the little logo with the sock and and
Mhm.
Frank Thomas crushing moonshots, 500 feet bombs. Like
Yeah.
what are we like?
It was a
I and
movement,
I
man.
yeah. So Frank Thomas was my guy too, but I liked Albert Bell. Now I know he was a Indians. Albert
Right.
was my guy. He was a badass.
He's a
That was
goon,
my guy.
bro. Drop a shoulder, just.
It's like it's almost like I channel like another part of myself I wish I could be, or like another part that lives within me where I just want
Yeah.
to be a goon. Like that was it. That was
Yo,
me. I would I
you did
loved
not piss off Albert Bell in the game, man. You just not do that.
oh man. He didn't give a flying you know what F. He didn't
Mhm.
care. And I loved him for it. So he was one of those guys who I loved. And obviously so back then there were so many prominent um you know, prominent black players, and you mentioned some, especially some that were with the Mets. And so talk to me about what you're, because I talk to us about what you did with the Mets, because I know what you did with the Mets, but I want the audience to kind of know what. Talk to us about what you did with the Mets. I know you did some content for them as well. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so a lot of things about the way that team and I kind of crossed paths. For about 6 months, I was on this fan site called Mets Digest, which we would like take the news of the day with the organization and just like present it in a really kind of informative way. I just wrapped up with them, but I would say with the podcast, again, in the booth of Black Baseball Mixtape, we had the chance to sit down with people who are like real fans, like the Jingle Man. We had Jordan Simpson Music on the show. We had
Nice.
Justin T. Manning, who's the in stadium host. He's one of the hosts for the team. So it talked about how the culture is changing from the inside out. So to me, that was kind of a cool thing for me because I know 2-3 years ago it'd have been like no one would have answered an email, and now people are being on the podcast talking about the New York Metropolitans. You know?
Yeah, no, and it's awesome. It's awesome to hear. And obviously, so talking about the Mets, right? We know all the buzz 2025. What are your thoughts? Before I ask you about your thoughts, I want to know your thoughts so far. It's early in the season, right? But
Yeah,
before that, what were your initial thoughts on the offseason moves for the Mets? And then I'll give you mine. And
yeah.
maybe we'll see if we'll compare notes.
I feel bad because I'm a nerd when it comes to these things, man. So when I'm not
Oh,
doing this, I play a game called Out of the Park Baseball, which is basically a general manager simulation game. It's like you get charts and spreadsheets and you click transactions and stuff. So I was on board with Stearns. Like, and no, on the surface, there was no sexy transactions besides Soto and maybe Alonso. I feel like a lot of like loose parts and reclamation projects, but everyone on paper looked like they were primed to over deliver. So it was like, are we going to do this? Are we going to have another April of 2024? So right now, I'm actually doing pretty well. Yeah, it's not as fun as last year's season. There really isn't like a Glizzy Iggy or there isn't a Grimace, but the way that we're able to do things and get some parts we needed or actually are a better, well-rounded team despite losing guys, like to me, that's what you want, you know?
yeah, no, definitely. I'll tell you a couple things that worry me still to this day,
Hit me.
and I could be proven wrong. Don't get me wrong.
Please.
Right? I mean, we all know, we all get like, yeah, because we're all 100% right all the time, right? Um, I a little so far, Stearns has been proven a genius as far as his reclamation projects, in particular in the starting rotation. But I, for one, am waiting for one of those to blow in his face
Okay.
because I did not like the Frankie Montas acquisition when it happened. I thought the Mets should have re-signed Severino. That's
Mm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. Not that Severino is Cy Young, but what I'm saying is for what you get. They're both injury prone, right? But one did it for you here. The other
Right.
one has the history, never did it for you here. You understand? They have the injury history, similar, all that, and the money. Just to me, I know it sounds like a small thing, but it could, if Montaz is gone for a longer time period of time than what we think,
Yeah.
it could prove to be a problem.
Yeah, it's weird with the Severino thing because I believe was Severino given the qualifying offer? I don't remember, but I
I don't.
thought that I don't think he was. I think Manaya and Alonso did, but yeah, I think of all the transits and transactions, Severino looked like the most likely to be back here this season. It didn't happen, and it just came out recently that he was going to take less money to do that, which is kind of weird for me. But I will
Yeah.
say, when it comes to pitching, the one hole that gives me concern is the middle inning relief. Yeah, okay, Minter, maybe a semi Diaz in the end, and your rotation's okay. But when someone gets knocked out early, are we giving the ball to Buto? You got
Right.
knocked
Right.
around
Right.
today.
Right.
Like
Right.
I'm
Right.
worried about innings 4, 5, and 6 personally. So I'm
Right.
with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And so I have some concern when it comes to that. I feel like Stern's philosophy is I'm not going to pay starting pitching for starting pitching. And listen, for so far, right, it's worked with the pitching lab. We understand who Jeremy Hefner is. We understand um, what the Mets have built up, right, in that pitching lab and philosophy. But there's
Hmm.
gonna come a point in time where it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work on everybody. You understand
Right.
what I'm saying? And that
I'm with
scares
you.
me a little bit.
But what's the
Scares me a little bit.
alternative? Because Jordan Montgomery wasn't good. Dylan Cease is not good. You know what I mean? People are getting
No,
like knocked down.
no.
Like it really isn't a marquee free agent like that old days was.
That was the you're 100% right on that. So I think, well, yeah, I mean, look, Montas got hurt, like you said. The other guys would have probably gotten hurt too. We have a couple prospects. Obviously, we know about the Sproats and of the world, and those guys. They're not quite ready yet, but they could
Mm-mm.
be ready at some point, right?
Yeah, they're
Down
saying
the
Sproat and
stretch,
Tong this season, maybe.
right. Maybe Mania comes back at some point. Hopefully, no setback, right? So those things could help us, help the Mets, right? So we'll see. But and so just to let you know, just to ask, just to know for sure, you were down with the Juan Soto signing, or were you kind of like, should we have pivoted? What did you think the Mets should have done?
All right, so before this even became a situation, Juan Soto was the only person in baseball that rubbed me the wrong way. So I had to go check myself, as the people say, because I'm not a big fan of him twerking in the box like that. And so with
I've
the
heard
Mets,
you. I've heard you say that. Yes,
I
yes.
just
I'm
I just
with you.
never
I'm
got
with
it.
you.
I
I'm
just
with you.
didn't get it. I was like, you know what? If you don't get it, I fine. But like someone is so young and so good as Juan Soto, you're going to pay that kind of money. The Red
Yes,
Sox, the
yes.
Yankees, and the Mets all offered over 700 million because Yankee fans like to say, "Oh, the Mets going to Met," but I'm like, "Yo, you put up 700 million as
Right.
well." So like, the expectations are going to be high on anyone because he doesn't even pitch like Otani pitches. You know what I mean? Like, and you're paying him no deferred money, so the risk is there. But I've noticed, and Steve Cohen noticed because he works on Wall Street, if you put an investment that much on one person, you plan to use them for something else. The culture has already changed with New York. People are saying it's like almost like a pan Latin flair. The Marlins are jealous. If that's the key pin, someone who's young, who's going to be there for a long time, and be a hero for that other side of the city that tends to be Yankee fans and Dominicans, and why the heck not?
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's the other part that I think the average fan doesn't consider is the off the field, the marketing, the business aspect, and obviously, look, there it's a reality, it's the real deal. Like Soto's one of those guys, one of those Latin ball players who moves the needle,
Yeah.
whether we like him twerking or not, whether whatever deficiencies he has. And my issue with him is I didn't like for that body type, which I understand why he got paid. I got it. But just for that body type and that money, I feel like that contract is not going to age well at all.
It
It's
may
not.
not. But I go back to 15 years ago when David Wright got the David Wright deal, and people were like, I don't know. And that technically didn't work out either because injuries kind of surmounted. But those Mets sides were awful. But you could put David Wright's face on a souvenir cup. You could have a David Wright promotion, and people will show up to see him. He's an attraction. Soto was an attraction as well. You locked him up. So I get the business move, but as a fan, I'm like, please do not make this to a Bobby Bonilla. Please do not just blow up in my face.
Well, and Bobby Bonilla is one of the worst contracts of all time. Not for him, but for him, forget it. It's a. Oh my God! I mean, it's a robbery. Like he got
Yeah.
off, boy. That boy is still eating every year.
Yeah, to like
So
what 2034 or something like that.
oh, unbelievable. I mean, that guy, man. Listen, that guy he's paid. He's good. I mean, and he was a bust, really. I mean, he had two stints here. That's the
Hmm.
crazy thing. People forget that. Like Bobby was here twice.
Yeah, and he wasn't good the first time either. But that's just me.
Right. Yeah, right. Only, yeah, whatever. I mean, that's the Mets history. We know that, but
Yeah,
but hopefully, look, orange and blue skies now, and so right. So fingers crossed. So I guess before we wrap it up, I want to know, because obviously this is the baseball aficionado. We do, we view everything from the Latin baseball prism, right? Who
yeah.
are some of your favorite all time Latin ball players? growing up? Who was, you could mention from any other team. It doesn't have to be just the Mets.
Oh, I will tell you, it was Ray Ordonez. Like I wanted to be Ray Ordonez, and the thing is, I was really fat and slow, but when I had the ball in my hand, I'm there like stretching out in the dirt, man, because I felt myself to be him as well. I mean, the captain now, Lindor, really holds it down. It's almost like a model like employee. You know, a lot of times, and I'm not, I don't want to speak for the Latin experience, but a lot of times when a Latin player is doing very well, they get kind of like the qualifying thing. Oh, he's great. He's a good son of Venezuela. He's a good son of Cuba. But like Lindor right now on this team, for the first time in a long time, the entirety of the cross section of Mets fandom don't even see him as an Afro Latino. It's like, yo, he's just our
Right,
captain, and that
right,
to
right.
me is progress. That's not forced. It's just the way he shows up and does his thing and puts the city on his back. You know.
Well, that's what Lindor does, and it's a little thing that he did that a lot of that is not getting attention. Besides all the other things that he does, right? And I'll mention it to you right now. Putting the song "My Girl" there, that did something, and a lot of people don't even realize it. The crossover appeal on that, he could have went in there, which he used to do before with his, typical the Latin ball player plays his reggaeton and his Spanish music. No, he put "My Girl" on,
Mm-hmm.
and he does interviews in English and Spanish because he can speak both, and he's accountable. He's not the stereotypical Latin ball player that, whatever, doesn't feel comfortable doing interviews in English, or doesn't want to, or doesn't want to have to speak twice, right? For whatever reason. Um, no, or he's not gonna be what, no, he does all that, tones it down. Sometimes, he's an employee, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be a captain. You work for the name that is on your chest. And he embodies all of that on the field and off the field. And so,
Absolutely.
you, yeah.
Does he need to be
So
captain or no? That's the question. Would you put a C on his chest, or is it kind of like you're already are the captain? Let it hang.
I think he should be the captain, but he doesn't need it to validate what he's done or what he
I'm with you.
means to the. He already is. Like, he is. He wants the smoke. He showed it last year. Look at that team. That, if we're being objective, right? Let's take a
Okay.
step back from, right. Look at that roster last year. Look at that roster.
Yeah.
They took the Dodgers to 6 games. They almost
True.
went to the World Series. What are we talking about? Like, Jose Iglesias and Manaya was their best pitcher, and Senga only pitched like how many innings? And
Like
what
12
are we
innings.
doing?
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, Tyrone Taylor getting big minutes, big playing time down the stretch with big hits, and all these other guys. I mean, come on! It was like a whole thing of a what do you call it? They have a movie, The Island of Misfit Toys. That's what it was. Like,
I guess you're not a Torrens fan either.
no, but you get me, right? Like, it,
Yeah.
it wasn't like a who is who, murderers row 27 Yankees or something. Come on. It wasn't '06 Mets.
Right.
That
Right.
that team should have won a World Series. You want to talk about a team that underachieved? That team should have won a World Series. They
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. The Tigers are weak that year too. They would have won the World Series had they
Oh,
beat
Mets would have.
St.
Oh,
Louis.
listen, I don't want to sound like a homer. I don't care. Call me a homer, whatever. Mets would have smoked the Tigers in that World Series.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cardinals beat us because they have that mystique at that time. That's why they beat us. They were the Cardinals still. That's what, remember, back Cardinals used to have that mystique. They used to be like the Yankees. They used to have that, where they would psych you out before even getting on the field. Right? You
Yeah.
remember Cardinals used to have
Yeah.
that mystique. So they've lost that in recent time, but they used to have it,
I'm fine with that.
you know.
I'm
So
fine with
before,
that.
yeah, no. So before we go, any parting shots? Anything you have coming down the pike? What is Flobo working on right now
Yeah,
and
well, thanks
beyond?
so much. Thanks so much for giving the platform. But definitely the In the Booth with Flobo Boyce podcast, part of the Black Baseball Mixtape channel. You can follow that at Black Baseball Mixtape over on Instagram. I got a blog, a sports blog, kind of a sports and comedy thing called Just a Sandwich. Because when you go to a store, you don't want the fries. You say, I want just a sandwich,
Just know it. Yeah, I
justasandwich.com.
like
You know
that.
how it is. And of
Very New
course, if you
York.
yeah, that's how it is. People understand that, right? I'm a big wrestling guy as well. So if you're into the wrestling arts and sciences, Draped in Gold is my wrestling podcast. That's every Wednesday night, wherever you get your podcast. I'm a Spotify guy myself, but me and Jack Farmer talk about what's going on in the world of pro wrestling.
But this guy, a jack of all trades, Man, I mean, DJ, comedian, baseball, wrestling. I'm a big wrestling fan too. So
Oh,
we'll
wow.
talk
Okay.
about, yeah, we'll talk about that offline. Bret the Hitman Hart is the GOAT. I don't care what
Okay.
anybody
Okay.
says.
You're gonna argue
I,
now, but I get you.
all right, yeah. Right. But that's another. We'll start the wrestling aficionado. But
Yeah, I'm down for that for sure.
Flobo Boyce, man, thank you for joining me. And I'll plug all your stuff in the. They'll be under the descriptions of audio and video. So definitely. And again, we'll make this happen again. We'll talk about some other stuff down the future, down the road. I appreciate having you on the show.
Yeah, appreciate you as well, man.
All right, man. Flobo Boyce representing Brooklyn, of course, and of course the West Indies too. Shout out to my West Indian neighbors as well, man. We love you too. So
Yeah.
all right, brothers. Yeah, no, I mean, come on. We eat the same stuff. We just call it different names.
I saw trying to tell. I was like, I was telling my mom the other day, I was like, she eats conkeys. I'm like, you know what you call conkeys in Puerto Rico? She goes, what? It's like a pasteles. It's the same stuff.
Right? Same
It's
stuff.
the same
Thank you.
thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
We eat
you're right.
listen, we eat the same stuff, brother. We eat the same stuff. We just have different names. That's it.
Yep. Facts.
Different colonizers, right?
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Basically what it is. Yeah.
That's all it was. That's it. So, all right, my brother. It was good chopping it up with you. Flobo Boys, thank you very much for coming on, brother.
No, thank you.
We'll talk. Man, that was so much fun. And we got to touch base again. I loved having him on. Make sure you guys check out the Black Baseball Mixtape, of course, in the booth, all those things. And of course, man, um, make sure to check out, of course, the Baseball Aficionado, BBA Aficionado, the clothing brand. This hat that I'm wearing, it's a new one that's available right now. Get 10% off. Check it out at the shop. And of course, as always, live life as if you're in a 3-2 count. Till next time.